welcome to another episode of Truth Seeking Souls. And today we have a very fascinating topic, which I'm sure that we're all kind of wondering. Were we here before? Do we have past lives? What were we? I often wonder if I was an animal, maybe a sloth or something, because I'm so lazy these days. So I was just wondering about, the past, Jan Venturini, and thank you again for joining us. So?
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. It's fascinating because I actually, as an intuitive, will see animals and people a lot. And because we have animal guides, all of us have animal guides. And so you can look at a person and kind of, you see these people that are really bird-like people. You just see the bird eyes, and you go, wow, I just see this bird here. Many times you can see a cat, a jaguar or something. It's fascinating to know that, but what's more important is let's kind of go into past lives, because it's a very vast topic. And let me go back to the beginning and how the world began to accept that there could be a reality behind having lived many lives, even though what I want to say to people is if you're a drop of water in a cloud, you could connect to any life at any time because you're aware as a consciousness.
Oh, really?
Now, that's
so
a
you
big
can,
subject.
So in other words, we're in heaven and we can choose which life we can embark upon?
We always do. As a matter of fact, if you look at your life today and you see what has been really difficult for you, and if you don't quite get it in this lifetime, then you're going to get help when you go to the other side from your guides, your counsel, all right, and your soul group. And they will help you plan your next lifetime to create all the perfect scenarios so that you can face whatever that thing is that's most difficult for you. And you can look at your own life right now and see how you could be setting up another life. And then we look at savants that come in that are just at 3 playing the piano like they had lessons for thousands of years. Well, how does that happen? It happens because they've already been a master pianist in a past life. Actually, in the world of science, how they came across past lives being acceptable there is kind of an interesting story. Psychologists could work with all the phobias, and they could find reasons behind fear of water and fear of tight spaces, but the one phobia that psychologists could not comprehend was bridge phobia. Why is a person afraid to go across a bridge? They couldn't connect events in a person's life to bridge phobia. So they called in the parapsychologists. Now, parapsychologists, most of them are hypnotherapists. They are esoteric people who believe in past lives. And what they would do is take a person into a trance state and go back to the very first time that they were afraid to cross over a bridge. And lo and behold, it was almost always in a past life where an old rope bridge broke and they fell to their death. Something actually happened on a bridge in another lifetime that caused them to be terrified of bridges in this lifetime. And now, I became a hypnotherapist in 1988, so I had to go through tons of hypnotherapy sessions. And in doing so, of course, I ran into my life many lives. And what I found fascinating, Jen, is that if I was looking at the core of a problem, I didn't find most of the cores in this lifetime. Almost all of them came from another life. And the interesting thing is I connected it to all the lifetimes that I knew all 3 of my sons from other times. And you, in hypnosis, have the opportunity to heal something from a past life. You can, in this lifetime, heal something from the past so you don't have to keep recreating it in more lifetimes.
Interesting. How do you going to tell us how to do that?
Well, okay, well, I'll give you my story. My oldest son was a defiant little critter from the time he was born. Mm-hmm. And at 2 1/2, he stood in front of me and said, "I'm never going to listen to you." And we had a real tumultuous relationship. I tried everything with him, and he defied me at every turn of the road. And when I was in hypnosis, I went back into a lifetime in which I was a man in the religious crusades, and as a man, I was lame in my left leg. And so I couldn't fight because I had this affliction. But I was a very good orator, and I was very good at convincing boys to volunteer to fight in the religious crusades. My oldest son was one of those. He was only 15 years old when I talked him into going out there, and he gave his life at 15 years of age. So he resented me, and so he had karma with me. Therefore, he came in as my son so we could work this through. So in hypnosis, I went back to that lifetime, and I apologized to him, and I created a whole new scenario around it. And the fascinating thing about that was he was 27 at the time, and he called me out of the blue.
Huh, interesting.
But when he came out of the blue, just all of a sudden, and we had a great relationship from that moment on. So what I healed doing hypnosis actually healed it in this lifetime without him even knowing what I did.
Interesting. So we went through hypnosis to go back to your old life, cured something there, and things just kind of transformed here.
In your subconscious mind, Jim, are every lifetime you've ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
And so your subconscious holds that memory. Because I'll tell people, why is it, do you think, that you're so afraid of burning yourself? Because you're not going to be afraid of burning yourself until you burn yourself.
Yep.
You're not afraid of touching that stove burner until you've done it. So what do you think made you so afraid of that or so, whatever it is?
The experience.
And they'll say usually, gosh, I know. I mean, I have had engineers come to me that say, I don't believe in past life. I said, fine, no problem. I just want to know why I have these issues with my father. I'll say, okay. But when I take them in a trance state, rather than saying to them, let's go back to the first time in this life that you had this problem with your father, I usually say, let's go back to the very first time that you had a situation with your father, with any father.
Mm-hmm.
And as a rule, they fall into another lifetime in which they have issues with the dad. And what we do is we work that one through and do some forgiveness and understanding. We make them powerful so they don't feel like a victim. And it shifts things. So even though the mind remembers an actual event in this life, it takes the charge out of it. And so it's in fact, my left leg, I had to have my knee replaced because it was an old guilt being held from that lifetime of sending all those boys to their death. So, of course, I had 3 sons, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, I have boys in my life all the time. And so knowing my past lives has really taught me compassion, understanding. But again, I will say to people, look, let's say that you're just hovering over that being in that life. Because if you want to get really complex, if you've ever read the Seth material, they will tell you that you're living in more than one body right now. That you're having several lifetimes at this moment. And that gets very complex.
Yeah, well, I don't see how that's possible.
Well, because your mind tells you that you're connected to the physical body you're in. But I have had some esoteric students, one in particular who lived with Yogananda and meditated 4 hours a day. Wow. So he was a little bit more open-ended than most people. And sometimes he would basically come to me just weeping because he would feel himself in a lifetime trying to protect his children in a Middle Eastern country from being attacked. And he would feel it so strong that tears would just well up and just run down his face. He felt it. And other times he would feel a lifetime that he had a begging bowl. And he was in India, and he was learning as a student how to meditate and ask for food. And it was very hard for him. And he would just go into these lives. And whether they were past life or present life, we don't know. Dick Septon used to take groups of people as a hypnotherapist. and he would take the whole room full of people in. He would have them connect up to another them in another place and another time. And he was very good at it. He was very successful at doing that. A lot of this went on in the 80s when everybody was so spiritually curious, you know, and they would go into these situations. Pretty much everybody's now accepting that there are past lives and that we are immortal and we do live forever. And so it's more acceptable now than it was, let's say, 30 years ago.
Can somebody exist as a human now and exist as an animal or something else in the previous years?
Well, actually, there's probably thousands of years between that happening. But I did have an experience once with a shaman. I was working with a shaman, and he took me into one of my guides, and one of my guides was a spotted jaguar. It was a black spotted jaguar. And I was in that jaguar, and I could feel the jaguar. It was on a hunt, right? And I could feel the muscles in my body running, and my eyes could see so well, unlike a human. And I actually felt the kill, which was terrifying. Actually, it was terrifying. But that was me taking me into a jaguar. So actually, I would say this. We all have animal guides. We have animals that work with us. And so us being animals, I wouldn't deny that we probably have ape ancestors. I wouldn't deny that at all. But as far as other animals, I would think we'd have to go back to we have to be talking about the Pleiades and other dimensions of reality where there is a fusion of animals and beings. And that gets really complex. So most human beings on this planet are pretty much human genetics, okay? And have been here many lifetimes. And have spent many lifetimes we're always trying to perfect our soul. We're always trying to come to that place of being able to be compassionate, to be kind, to accept the unacceptable, to learn how to walk with those who don't think like us or feel like we do. And that is a difficult thing to do here. On the other side, it's effortless because we see it all, because we connect to consciousness. We are limited here in our access to consciousness. Therefore, we have a harder time being able to bridge the world, so to speak.
And so, how does one see their past life? How do one access that?
Well, it's interesting. Sometimes you're drawn to places that you just don't even understand, and you're drawn to things that you don't understand. Like, for instance, you work with media.
Yeah.
Media comes from the Pleiades. All right? We are light years behind the Pleiades in the ability to create light form and to work with what we call media, which is slightly different there. So you're fascinated with it because you come from the Pleiades, because you've had lifetimes there. The reason why in the birth canal, in your mother's your uterus before you were born, 36 hours before you were born, an enzyme is released into the amniotic fluid, and it's called the enzyme of forgetfulness. And the reason that happens, you're coming into a lifetime that you're going to have to try to push through limitations from the past. That's a lot to have to deal with. Well, imagine if you remembered every struggle you ever had in every other lifetime. It would be overwhelming.
It would be too much.
Exactly. So it's cut off of our conscious mind, and it's stored in our subconscious mind. So any hypnotherapist can bring it out for you. All you have to do is go into a trance state, into subconscious mind, and it's pretty easy to bring out, but you have to use a theme about it. There has to be a question. Mm-hmm. All right? I want to know more about why I do whatever it is. And then that's how you actually access it. It has to be something real. Mm-hmm. You can't just go, oh, I'd like to go find it and see what I was in another lifetime. That will not take you there.
Okay. So,
make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. I mean, you have to have someone who's good at it.
Like if I was to say to you, okay, describe for me the perfect place in nature for you, Jim.
Oh, I would say definitely by an ocean, by the ocean, of woods.
Right.
The right that kind of goes into the walk to the lake, maybe.
Okay, so just imagine you're walking by that ocean that goes into a lake, and let yourself feel powerful, and that you could be in any time on that ocean. And just pretend that you could imagine yourself being something that is not in this lifetime. Maybe you could find something laying on the beach that's a symbol of another time.
Yeah.
You reach down and pick it up. What is it?
It's a star.
Yeah, a star. Mm-hmm. Stars were used by Vikings. Did you know that? Mm. Vikings had the ability to read north, south, east, west directions with complete cloud cover. And stars symbolized the universe above them, so that they could take the star and put the points of all the planets, and that would help them navigate. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So that they were the navigators of the seas. So you tapped in to a memory from a Viking lifetime when you were free. Free to go. Free to be on the wild seas. Free to explore worlds that are unlike yours. And can't you feel that? How freeing that is?
Sure. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So you were a Viking. And it's actually not that hard to tap in. If you have an intuitive to talk to, it makes it a little easier, of course. But I did that with my husband, and he thought he was reaching for a cross, but when he pulled it out, mm-hmm. It was a sword. Ooh. And it took him back to why he would never get in a fight with anyone, because he has a memory of being such a phenomenal swordsman and killing. So he is totally against any kind of violence, because he doesn't want to ever be that again. But that's still what he found was his sword. Mm-hmm. So we all have it. It's inside of us. It's pretty simple, and you could do a little technique where, people have a tendency to dress on Halloween as something they've been. And they don't even know it. Yeah, I seen my son was a monk one time, and I went, oh my God, my youngest son. I went, oh my God, you're pulling up a past life. It was just perfect. But we will see that in a lot of people that aren't dressing up as something modern today, but they will pick something that's familiar to them. Mm-hmm. Like dressing like a gypsy, because they've been a gypsy. Wow. So that some of the ways that we tap into those lifetimes, if we don't have a hypnotherapist handy, is we look at the things that we love. Like, for instance, foods. Mm-hmm. It's interesting how we were drawn to foods that connect us to the lifetime that we learn to love those foods.
Incredible.
Right?
I've been a superhero so many times.
What's that?
I dressed up as a superhero, like Batman or...
Well, yeah, because Vikings were superheroes. Are you kidding? Oh, yeah. The Vikings were the best warriors on the planet? The Vikings took over Scotland. They took over Ireland. They were phenomenal. They were the best thieves in the world. Mm-hmm. But they also were the most powerful. They were big men, and they were very successful. And they were very, very, very respected by others. And they were respected for their bodies, their prowess. See, you're more into helping others and the mind this lifetime than your body being that you're driving force. Got it?
Yeah.
All right?
Well,
I was a therapist in my last lifetime.
Oh, well, you're kind of a therapist now.
Yeah, I was a male therapist who never had a relationship because I wanted to work on everybody else and never take a risk. I was male.
Wow.
And so my name was Eduardo Franco.
Yeah.
I lived in England.
Really? How do we,
Yeah.
so can we find out who we were? I mean, our name and everything?
I could give you one of my most fun readings on a young boy.
Well, you did a reading on me. Yeah. I was back in India.
Yes, you've been in India several times.
I was actually very happy to be amongst my people. I felt very well
Absolutely.
loved and taken care of. And then I come to this nation, 50 years ago. I still don't feel like I belong here. Yeah.
No, because, how do I put it? America has no roots.
Yeah.
America is the land of displaced souls from many other places. Got it? It was created, the Indians came down through Canada, all right, to North America.
Yeah.
And then Europe sent its criminals over and those who wanted religious freedom. So that's what created the United States.
Yeah.
The United States has become a melting pot of lost souls and people that want something different from other places. And particularly on the West Coast, there is more roots on the East Coast. But the West Coast is more like a state of mind. It's more like an evolving state of being. And it's exciting because it's evolving, but it's very different than other parts of the world. And India is a land of spirit. But yet, India is becoming very westernized. So it's not what it once was when it was more a land of spirit because it's taken on Western philosophies. And then the West is trying to take on Eastern philosophies. But when you were in India, you had a specific path.
Yeah.
Here, it's not specific. Got it?
That's true.
And so because of that, it can make a person feel unsettled, the ground unsettled under their feet.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Right?
Well, yeah. And I mean, this nation was built upon some good things, but also a lot of evil things, like the genocide of the natives and enslavement of Africans. And it was just, so I hope I wasn't
it's
there.
Barbaric. Let's just use the right word. We have a barbaric history of cruelty. There's no question about that. However, at the same time, there is a higher consciousness at work here.
I hope so.
And at any moment, we can choose that path. We don't have to accept the lower realm. What you see that is so unusual on the planet right now that we've never seen before are the levels of souls here. We have got baby souls and advanced souls, but we're bringing in a ton of advanced souls to help us out. Because right now we have a very old ideology running the planet, and that old ideology is kind of outgrown its usefulness. So we have a lot of help coming right now. So you have to stay focused on your own truth. And the thing is about living many lifetimes is that you have to reach that point where you realize that compassion is the highest level of love. People are always doing the best they know how. They just don't know better. There's a lot of people out there that are baby souls, not had a lot of experience in life, And there's a bigger picture occurring, and sometimes we're looking at things just so we don't have to go there. We don't have to become that. And yet, the trick to this whole thing is you never die. You're eternal. However, based on your attitude, your morality, your ethics, is where you go from here. And so if you stay true to yourself, true to that which you are, true to that which you believe in, and become harmless to others, you're going to be fine.
Right.
Okay? is don't get caught up. Remember, right now, the world is being driven by conspiracy theories, by a lot of propaganda.
Well, when you say true to yourself, I mean, isn't that the general kind of cliche? So when we're talking about past life, what I'm interested in is what did I do back then that's causing so much pain now? And how I can go back there or, to fix it. I guess you need a medium like yourself?
Well, actually, imagine a guru in India who's lived his life in a cave meditating.
Yes.
All right?
Yeah.
And totally thrown away from society. Totally thrown away from society. And imagine that he ends that lifetime. And his guides and his focus says, well, that's fine. You found God in a cave by yourself. Can you find God on the busy streets of New York?
I think you could. No?
Can you find God in the midst of chaos where you can't find anything godly around you?
Well, let me tell you something. Today's generation, especially the younger generation, the teenagers, they're so into their phones, I don't think they even know what higher power is.
Well, that's what technology did.
Yeah.
Okay? And that comes from the Arcturus realm. And technology, all right, they will get bored eventually. Trust me.
Yeah,
when AI takes over most of that stuff and is no longer fun, they're going to get creative again. Really creative again. But you asked what hurts. What hurts is you trying to figure out how to be positive in a world that you don't see moving in a positive direction. Being true to yourself says, I can choose to smile and be happy, whether the world is happy or not. I can choose to believe that the sun's going to come up every day no matter what's happening, or I can get caught up in all of this fear-mongering. It's my choice. It's I who decides, not the world. That's being true to yourself. So when something is a struggle, it's a lesson. There's a gift there. What is it that you have to learn about that? Or I'm going through it right now with my husband being so ill. I have to accept his creation of what he's going through and assist him in whatever way he chooses me to, not try to control it. And yes, it will change my life, but I have a choice to make. I can either deny everything that's happening or be irritated about it all, or I can choose to find a golden lining here. Right? So it's all inside us. So when you say all these things that you're going through, that's how you're re-entering the world of people. Because remember, you've had a lot of alone lifetimes, Jim, of being able to spiritually work in different areas on your own, but you're having to balance being you in a world that's a whirlwind of activities and a whirlwind of people and situations you don't really understand, and accept it for what it is. And know when to do something and when not. One of my greatest lines for myself with Spirit is, if I am to do something, show me. If not, don't. Because I see things with my own children. I always did. I see things with people around me. But to know when to act and when not to, that's where I have to use discernment all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I have to ask, if I'm to do something, show me. And if I'm not, show me. Just, I need to know where the line is so that I don't walk into trying to control other people's lives. So I don't have the right to do that. That's one of my lessons in being here in this lifetime. So for you, it's like, let go of the idea that you're struggling in any area and realize that you've chosen a path that is filled with people you're not used to having all around you.
Yeah.
In a world that is not familiar.
Yeah.
And that's a gift, because you're learning how to balance and bring Eastern philosophy to Western world. I would suggest to you that you start chanting more Om Namah Shivaya.
Oh, yeah? Mashallah.
I would get a really good chant tape of either Guru Gurudeva or Om Namah Shivaya.
Oh, yeah.
And I would chant it in the car because it will open you up to your truth and who you are inside, Jim.
And is that past life healing?
Yeah, it's going to start healing your body so that you can accept what's going on in front of you now. In fact, you should do a ritual. You should get up a little earlier every morning and do a meditation and some chanting with a chant tape. And you're going to feel like $1 million when you go to work. Okay. Don't watch the news. Don't turn on the news. Stay away from that, all right?
Hard not to these days.
You've got thirsty kids all around you, and your energy is what's guiding them, and you're helping them in a multitude of ways. See, we don't usually see, until we go to the other side, the good that we've done. And sometimes it's a simple act. Just one simple act. There's a great story in one of the metaphysical books I have about a man that just feels destitute when he dies on the other side. And this is written about him being on the other side. He's on the other side. He's feeling like, I just went to work every day. I could have spent so much more time with my children, and I didn't. I could have been so much more kind and loving to my wife, and I wasn't. And this guy says, do you remember back in the Depression?
Yeah.
When you spotted that girl crying on that bench?
Yeah.
And you needed to go to work, but you knew she needed you more than you needing to go to work to earn money for your family. So you sat there with her, and you held her hand, and after a while she was crying. And she said that she'd been turned down for every job she tried, and she had children at home, and she had no money to feed them. She had to get a job. You convinced her that this interview was going to be the right one, and she was going to get that job. And she finally got on the bus and went to that interview, and you went to work, and guess what? She got that job because of you.
That's awesome.
So you made a massive difference in that woman's life that changed her family's life, and he has told all about what happened to that family. So we don't always know an act that we do that is overwhelmingly powerful. We go through life. All right, but one thing I do know, there is a practice that every person should do. And one is forgiveness, forgiving people in their life who didn't live up to what they feel they should have been, and gratitude for everything they have. Because those two things, done on a daily basis, cleans karma up like you can't believe.
Yeah, and I visited my dad about a month ago. Went to his grave and kind of talked to him about it and everything. And I told him I didn't like him, and in a way I still don't like him, but at the same time I'm going to forgive him and just kind of like not give any more energy towards the stuff that he did to me that I didn't like. And I felt this huge weight lifted.
Yeah, exactly. Because you forgave him. He needed to be forgiven because he didn't know how to be a father in the first place.
Yeah.
He was learning how to be a father. You were learning how to be a son. And the reality is that we're not usually born to people that are going to be easy for us. Okay? We are usually born to people that have some of our lessons contained within our upbringing. And so when we can release them by forgiving them, we free them from having to come back and do it over again. And you don't have to, forgiveness doesn't have to be somebody living here. You can absolutely forgive the other side. I had an old boyfriend come back to me to ask for forgiveness after he died this last year.
Oh, wow. Well, that must have been nice.
Yeah. And of course, absolutely. It's just like what took place. He wanted you to clear the air on, and we cleared the air on it. So there is no ending and beginning in reality. So nothing ever really ends. And each lifetime is just coming back in to continue. It usually takes us 3 lifetimes to get through one theme.
Wow.
Because it's like we can be PhD graduates at a thing, but we can be children at others. Me organizing things is challenging. Spontaneity is natural for me.
And so people can call you and ask you to do a reading, or can you do past life regressions over the phone?
I do always. Whenever I do a reading for people, past lives come up. I can't deny them because it's always in the questions that they're asking. It's always there.
But I'm saying
they don't have to do hypnosis. The only difference between reading a person and giving them past life information and having them do hypnosis is in hypnosis they experience the past life. My reading them, they will get goosebumps about it because there'll be some truth there. But it will be, at least it gives them understanding why they feel the way they do, especially when it comes to people they have issues with.
Wow.
I mean, so many times they're going to pull old relationships into their life to live out whatever. And usually that person left them in a past life. So they're going to end up leaving that person in this one, or vice versa. There's going to be a completion of some kind in relationships because we don't draw strangers to us.
No. All right.
We draw souls. We draw souls from our soul group. And in fact, some of our petty tyrants are the people who love us the most, who agree to come in to be the petty tyrant so we can learn the lesson. Wow. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Anyway, so I'm sure people can get to you through your website, and it has been a fascinating talk, and we like to have this topic again, for sure, and talk more about past life, because I think this is really something that can actually solve a lot of people's problems if they carry it in from one realm of existence to another. And
Absolutely.
That's something I think that is never going to go away, so we're going to have more shows of this. And next time, I kind of want you to discuss how we can get people to have that past life regression and see what was happening and what happened and how we can solve it,
You bring up something interesting. I've thought about making a tape that could guide people little bit into, and in a safe way where they could experience something over and over and then change it. Because the beautiful part about the subconscious mind is, let's say you could go back in a lifetime and you're a victim of somebody cruel. It's very easy to just shrink that person and make yourself big and loom over them, make them the size of your thumb. And then they get to listen to every cruel thing they've ever done to you. And you get to just make them listen to you. And then you can send them away to school to learn how to be a better person. And it puts you in charge. It puts you in charge. So when you come back, you realize, wait a minute, what happens in hypnosis is you take them back to the event that you started with, and now they feel different about it. It all shifts. Everything shifts. But in a meditation, it's a little different. In a meditation, you'll get inklings, and we can do something that you can actually complete a forgiveness there so that people can do it. I don't know. I'll have to think on that one. But
yeah, let's think about it, and we'll definitely table it for the next show.
Okay, great.
And then why don't you go ahead and stay on with me? And for those who are listeners, you can go to truthseekingsouls.com and try to get a hold of Jan. So maybe you can find out what were you not too long ago. So I have Jan Venturini here. This is Jim Haig, and I want to thank you, Jan, again for an amazing session. And stay tuned for the next one. We're going to be pretty soon. We're going to be on Apple Podcasts, and also you can find us at SoundCloud. And of course, the website is truthseekingsouls.com. All right, this is over and out. Thank you so much.